I think for too long, too many people in this society let their standing determine their identity. So let's start with a question I think we can all have the same answer to. Do you think life can be hard at times? Unless you're some person who's not in touch with reality, the answer is a resounding yes. Of course, life can be hard at times, and sometimes we go through these seasons where it just never seems like life is easy. There's always a challenge, there's always a task, there's always an obstacle. And life can get tough, and when life gets tough, that can make our life a little difficult. Maybe we go into a season of depression, anxiety, worry, sleepless nights, whatever the case may be. We all deal with pressure, stress, and anxiety a little bit differently. But in the world of sales, in the world of whatever you do professionally, heck, even in your own personal life, I think to mitigate that stress, to mitigate a low quality life, you have to try to figure out which side of the fence you're on. Are you on the side of the fence where your standing determines your identity? Or are you on the side of the fence where your identity determines your standing? Now you could be thinking, what's this word trick semantics game you're playing here, Newberger? Come on, get with it. Well, I think the difference is quite profound, and I want to walk you through this. Let's say you're on one side of the fence where your standing determines your identity. What do we mean when we say that? So you're standing. Let's say for 2 weeks, you're in the world of sales. I'm a national keynote speaker, sales trainer. That's an obvious example. So let's say you're in the world of sales. For 2 weeks, you're crushing it. You're getting RFPs. Every door you want to get into is opening wide for you. You're closing business one after another after another. You go back to the office. Hey, I'm feeling pretty darn good. Your boss is happy. Your partner is happy. You're happy. Things are good. You're in good standing right now. So if your standing determines your identity, you're in good standing. Therefore, your identity is a good salesperson, a contributing professional, somebody who's contributing back to the lives of other people in society. Well, now let's say after those 2 weeks, as it typically happens, cyclical, now you go through 6 weeks of being in the Sahara Desert. Tumbleweeds, crickets, cactus, I'll paint you that picture. You can't get into doors. No RFPs. Nobody's calling on the phone. Can't close a piece of business to save your life. Now, maybe based on what your boss says, maybe about what you think of yourself, you're in low standing now. Maybe I'm not a good salesperson. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. If your standing goes down, you're not producing, you're not generating the results that you want, that then could hurt your identity. So for 2 weeks, your standing is high. Your identity is great. I'm king of the world. But then for 6 weeks, your standing goes down. And now you're starting to doubt yourself. You're starting to have an image problem. And I think for too long, too many people in this society let their standing determine their identity. That's why I think we have such rabid anxiety, depression, and prescriptions to try to keep these things in check. Our suicide rate is through the roof. Couples are getting divorced left and right. We're a very unhappy society, and I think to some degree we let our standing determine our identity. Don't let this world tell you who you are or who you should be. Maybe you should be skinnier. That's what we value. Maybe you should be wealthier. That's what we value. And when you compare yourself to that standing, your identity fluctuates accordingly. 1 week you're up, 1 week you're down, 1 month you're up, 3 months you're down. That's a roller coaster that nobody wants to be on. What if we flip it? What if you try living on this side of the fence for a while? What if you let your identity determine your standing? What is that? Well, the first question becomes, what is your identity? How do you identify yourself? What is your belief system? What is your firm foundation? What is it that you believe about yourself, about life, whatever the case may be, and how do you identify with that? I'll give you a quick example. So one of the keynote speeches that I deliver nationwide is everybody's an entrepreneur. We celebrate entrepreneurship. We revere entrepreneurs. It's a very positive connotation with a word like that. Well, imagine if you're an entrepreneur, you've got an idea, you've got an invention, you've got a product or service that's going to forever change the world. Every organization you take it to, that'll never work. Every person you sit down with, that's the stupidest idea you ever heard. Son, you should quit now. Well, if you let your standing determine your identity, you start thinking, well, maybe they're right. Maybe I am a failure. Maybe I'll never amount to anything. Maybe this invention was a lousy idea. But entrepreneurs are good at what they do because they're on the other side of the fence. They let their identity determine their standing. I don't care what you say. I know I'm a creative guy. I know I'm a passionate guy. I know I've got 1,000 ideas. And I know I've got this one calling in life that if I can just see this thing through, it's going to touch a ton of lives and forever change the world. They're firm in their identity. They know who they are. And now they know they're standing accordingly. So my question for you, friends, is what's your identity? I'll tell you my identity. Now, I wear a lot of hats. I own 4 businesses. But my sole identity is not as an entrepreneur. I'm happily married. But my sole identity is not as a husband. I've got 3 beautiful children. I love them more than life itself. But my sole identity is not as a father. My sole identity, my primary identity, is as a child of God. That is how I identify myself more than anything else. I'm rooted in my faith. I'm firm in my faith. And I believe that God loves me no matter what happens. Whether I sell, whether I don't sell, God forbid if I get a divorce, if I lose my job, if I get sick, my standing in the world will fluctuate in all those instances, but my identity as a loved child of God will never change. So whether it's faith, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's 1,000 other things, you need to be firm in your identity, know what your identity is, and let that determine your standing, not only for peace of mind and happiness, but also for a very high quality of life.